r/ask Reddit. What double standard disgusts you? The employee should give 2 weeks notice. Anything else is unprofessional, but the employer will actively obscure their intentions until the very last minute. Right now in Canada, we're in strict lockdown, but a dozen of our politicians have been found vacationing around the globe. In other words, we can't bury grandma at a funeral, but these politicians can go work their tan. Thankfully, many of them have resigned in the last 2 weeks. In America, the politicians can barely get the words out of their mouth by the time they're breaking the rules. None of them ever resign either. Hell, in California, a city councilwoman literally voted to ban indoor dining and then immediately went out to eat following the vote. If you always arrive to work late, you're in big trouble. If work never finishes on time, shrug, no big deal. I offered to work extra hours in a salaried position to get the company over a hurdle if they'd do the honorable thing and comp me hour for hour for my trouble. Outright refused. Because you're salaried. Even though my giving up a few weekends would make a huge difference for their bottom line. So when they tried the extra hours mandatory free overtime thing later, I told them to piss up a rope. Business should do whatever it takes to get ahead. But if the employee tries to make their life better or find a new job, they are lazy and ungrateful. Recently on here there was a thread about employers hiding the pay for a posted position. Most people hated it as it was a waste of time to get to the point where they are willing to tell you the pay and it's an insulting amount. A few people were defending it. One guy said that it only makes sense for the employer to hide this from you and try to manipulate you about pay. From the employer's point of view, they need to pay you as little as possible, and if they post a salary, then people who want more than that will not apply. So no chance to underpay someone who is worth more, and they will have to deal with people who aren't good enough for that meager salary. So according to this guy, really, it's for the best that they try to screw you with hidden a salary for job postings. He's saying this as if we're supposed to just agree with it and not stand up for ourselves and just bend over and take it. But us demanding to know the salary during the first contact about a job? Unacceptable. How dare we try to interfere with the company trying to screw us? When I leave a job, I'm generally expected to give 2 weeks notice so the company isn't left without essential things being done. When a company decides to let me go though, no warning to start putting in applications or saving more money, you're just gone. Total horse shit. Not in countries like Germany. It's harder for the company to get rid of you than you leaving. Similar in Australia, they need to give notice. I think I had one where it was 1 month notice, but they got around it by just paying me for the month and not having me come in, as I could have been a security risk if I was disgruntled. Certainly didn't mind being paid for a month to not come to work. I wish I could spend one day talking to my mother the way she talks to me, sniping at her over every mistake, shouting her name from across the house and expecting her to drop everything and come talk to me, dismissing anything she says that I don't agree with by just saying no with no actual argument and expecting her to drop it. A woman with her kids is taking care, a man with his kids is babysitting. I went to the bank with my kids once and I got hit with being Mr. Mom. I am their primary caregiver. Abusive behavior is funny when coming from a woman. I pointed out to my husband that in movies and TV shows, women get upset by a man's actions and slap him and no one bats an eye. I'm an older woman who grew up with a violent mother and I know firsthand the scars that remain from those acts of abuse. Over the years I've heard too many horror stories from male friends and in forums where they describe horrific physical, verbal, and emotional abuse from their female partners. Showing a woman hitting a man normalizes this cruelty and it needs to stop. Spot on. As a man who had previously been pushed around and punched in one instance, let alone the constant psychological and emotional abuse throughout the entire relationship before leaving an ex many years ago, it was treated as a complete joke by both the police and most friends people I knew. The policeman laughed at me and said, "Mate, that doesn't sound right. Women don't do that sort of thing," and most other people I know just had a laugh about it, not taking it seriously whatsoever. I wasn't in any real danger as I'm a strong person who is physically capable of defending themselves. But that is irrelevant. Would it have been the same story if I had been cracked in the jaw and pushed around by a bloke? If I was a woman, you be the judge. If you owe a company money, you will be charged interest late fee service interruption almost immediately after the due date. If a company owes you money, you might see it in 4-6 weeks/2-3 billing cycles. Just to add to this, you miss your bill to your internet cable provider by a day and you pay fees out your ass. Your service goes down for a week. Oh well, you get jack shit. Men versus women. Guys as untrustworthy, skeevy characters around children. There was a guy who posted a while ago who portrayed my point exactly, about his experience being a teacher in infant school or something. Can't remember exactly, but the kids were pretty young. He loved being a teacher to help them, give them a good future, and watching them learn and develop into smart kids. However, there were a couple of occasions he got pulled aside by the head teacher for being inappropriate. One of them being taking a young girl to the classroom nurse's office and giving her some antiseptic cream and plaster for her scrapes, since she fell over in the playground, purely because he was the guy he was told parents might feel uncomfortable about that by his own head teacher. Like leaving a crying, bleeding kid in the playground was a more appropriate idea than her own teacher helping. I was at the park working out a few years ago and on a bench was a couple arguing. The girl proceeds to slap the crap out of her boyfriend. She then goes for another, but the dude blocked her and held her wrist. The girl then burst into tears and questions why he hurt her like that. To myself I was thinking, wait, you can hit him but when he defends himself it's wrong? Like WTF. I know, right? I see videos of girls hitting men and people don't care, and when the man steps in to defend himself everyone's like, whoa, now break it up. You should have said that when she was hitting him. Cigarette butts. They're not biodegradable and it's a fire hazard. We have issues with coffee cups, plastic bottles, etc. But we're totally fine with cigarette butts. If you're a smoker, make sure it only hurts you and nobody else. I just don't understand why smokers feel it's okay to leave their butts on the ground, toss them out the window, and so on. They'll be within 10 feet of a trash can and still just litter. Why is this acceptable? Politicians not following their own covered guidelines. It has become rules for thee, but not for me. Child predators. Both men and women should receive the same charges. Those romantic comedies with the cliche beautiful and smart woman married to the dumbest duck of a guy who is lucky to have her. Swap the roles and see people flip out. Benefiting from somebody performing a service while shitting on individuals who perform said service. Thinking of sex work and minimum wage labor. I have the perspective that if I am paying someone to do something I either can't do or don't want to do, then I am the one that is in need of help and they are doing me a favor by doing it. If I don't respect that relationship, then they can easily say, nah, I don't want to do it for you, and I am stuck doing the thing. I have a housekeeper come once a week while I am at work. I am so thankful and happy she comes. So of course I make sure I have her favorite tea and biscuits already on the bench for her, along with her correct pay. She is doing me a huge favor and should be recognized as such. I am amazed at how many times I treat people I ask for a service, takeout, handy people, car people, respect, and they are so grateful for it. I am the one who should be grateful. They are the ones making my life easier by offering their skills and time. Thank you, society. Wealthy people don't seem to be accountable for white-collar crimes like poor people who commit petty crimes. Wealthy people get huge tax breaks and can spend more money on themselves or invest to make even more. Investments are taxed at lower rates so people that can afford to invest make even more. Meanwhile, those at the bottom get no wage adjustments for inflation while the cost of everything else increases from inflation. Benefits and pensions are cut so the wealthy get rich from the profits as a result of lower pay and benefits. Corporations can move to tax-sheltered countries to avoid paying more taxes. The average person gets none of this and is paying more out of pocket. Look at Bernie Madoff, who went for years stealing other people's money and no prosecutions from the 2008 financial crisis. I guess it's easier to go after the poor, powerless and weak. And the amazing thing is that the elites or even middle class people will often shit poor people for being lazy or entitled as if their circumstances had no hand in making them stay poor. It's one hell of an elite propaganda and it's ducking working. Women rarely get complimented for the things men get complimented for. Assertiveness, accomplishments, basically any intentional act. They'll be passed on as beachy, triggered and overachieving. The compliments women get are compliments men rarely get. Being told that certain characteristics about their personality makes other feel good. Appearance compliments. This is absolute fuel for who has it worse. I know, but there is no lying in that both sides are receiving an imbalance in the kinds of recognition they wish they'd get. Making fun of men in comedy movies. Every father has half the ike of his wife. I especially notice that in commercials. Every single commercial the guy is wrong or an idiot. There was even one where a dad orders takeout but suddenly can't pay for it, so his 7-year-old daughter steps up and pays for, and it rolls her eyes at him. Having opinions on styles. Was at a bar with some friends and the girls were making fun of this guy's hair. Then a girl came in with the buzzed side of the head thing and I commented that I wasn't a fan of that style, and they got super defensive for her and telling me she can do whatever she wants and I can go duck myself. Yep, she can do what she wants. Evidently, I don't care for what she wants. Basically being against violence but making comments about how men will get raped in prison. It's disgusting and it's so mainstream. Every cop show makes some comment about prison rape being okay. Even shows like SVU where their entire storyline should be about protecting people. Clothes from the women's section fall apart after 6 months. Meanwhile, I have a 15-year-old shirt from the men's section that I still wear. Women's clothes also tend to be made from thinner fabrics. I buy men's t-shirts because they actually stand up to washing instead of coming out the equivalent of wet toilet paper. Like, no, I don't want to have to wear 3 ducking layers. Playing video games is a waste of time. Unproductive, and you should be ashamed of doing that in your free time if you're older than 18. In fact, you're immature if you do. But reading a book, watching TV, Netflix, going to a bar/club etc. is completely fine and encouraged for all ages. Well, except bars and clubs. Why the hell do people despise video games specifically with such a passion? You're playing games when you could be something productive. Bullshit. You wouldn't say that to someone doing anything that I specified above during their free time, but you would to someone playing games, regardless if they actually were productive during the rest of the day or not. Teaching about how bad Hitler and the Holocaust were, while the collective nations of the world do nothing about China and its treatment of Uyghurs while enjoying cheap electronics. No one cared about the Holocaust at the time. If Germany hadn't been actively attacking other countries, no one would have stopped the Holocaust. It sucks, but we can see it now. Know a lot of gaming knowledge and lore? OMG. What a geek. Know every member of every Super Bowl and World Series winning team? What a cool guy. My dad calls me a nerd for this stuff all the time, but he is very much a sports fanatic. I'm gonna start calling him a geek. If I'm in a movie and I ask for beer, I get one. If I order a beer in real life, the bartender will condescendingly ask which one. I'm a bartender. The only folks who ever ordered just a beer were my regulars, and I knew what they drink. With the exception of some guy I never saw before. I handed him a Coors Light and he complained it wasn't what he wanted. I said next time he should specify or he'll keep getting the closest thing to hand when I open the fridge. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.